Hi, everyone. Happy New Year-ish. I mean, it's already the end of January, but it is the first Lunch and Learn of 2025, so I think that still counts. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. My name is Lauren, and I'm an Enterprise Customer Success Manager with Jotform. I'm also joined by my partners from the marketing team to help with any questions during our session. Today, we'll actually be taking a look back at last year. It feels so long ago, right? Prominent Goals is continuing to grow, improve, and enhance our amazing product. 2024 was an awesome year for Jotform Enterprise. We added a new compliance type, Jotform Government. For more information on that, you can head to jotform.com/government. We also brought in our integrations list and continue to increase the capabilities of one of our most powerful automation offerings, our form workflows. I'm so excited to be sharing the makeover of our form workflows with you today. But wait, if you're wondering about that broadened integrations list I just mentioned, don't fret. We'll be chatting more about those integrations in a later Lunch and Learn episode this season. You can check out our Lunch and Learn page to learn more and make sure you're registered so you don't miss out. But back to the here and now workflows. Pretty exciting stuff, right? If you don't think so now, I bet you will by the end of this session. So stay tuned to be wowed, just like our title says. As per usual, we're going to be covering a lot in this video. So it is being recorded and we'll reserve some time towards the end of our presentation for questions. And one last thing before we get fully started. I wanted to let you know that the enterprise server we're working in today is not HIPAA enabled. While workflows are available for our HIPAA enabled servers, there are additional components for assignees and steps required under HIPAA compliance. If you have specific questions regarding HIPAA compliance within workflows, please contact our support team for further assistance. And now, finally, let's jump in, starting with the basics like, what is a workflow anyway? Got ahead of myself there. Formerly called approval flows, workflows are a way for you and your organization to manage what happens after data is submitted on a form. If you have used workflows before, you may already be familiar with some of the basic functionality. In case you have not yet tried workflows, there's no time like the present. Let me tell you more about them. Workflows start with the submission of a form and use the elements listed here to take necessary actions to complete internal review and processing. For more information on the original and primary functionality of flows, we have not one, but two previous Lunch and Learns on our YouTube channel. I definitely recommend checking those out. Today, though, we'll be focusing on the updates to the tool, which are the task element, assigning payment forms, and the inclusion of integrations to tie in third-party software to your flow. Some ways these new features manifest using some real-world examples we'll explore deeper today are a new hire process where an application will kick off the workflow. It's sent to a team to review it, to leave notes, and pass it off to an interview stage. From there, an interview can be conducted, and once a hiring decision is made, an applicant can be automatically informed via email of the team's decision. Another one is student registration forms. A parent fills out a form with child's information to enroll them in an extracurricular activity. After reviewing the registration and ensuring the information is correct, our activities coordinators will approve the submission and send a form to the parent to pay the registration fee quick and easily. Finally, maybe a new client request form. We have a contact us form embedded on our website. A new client can submit on there. Once that data is reviewed by our sales team, it can automatically create a meeting in our preferred scheduling software and invite the needed parties. This is just a small sample of all of the ways your organization can utilize workflows to ensure that your submissions are reviewed and processed accordingly. As I mentioned, workflows have been a staple of the Jotform Enterprise Form Builder tool. However, we've made some really awesome updates that I have the honor of sharing with you today. Let's hop in the system and take a look at some of those additions and chat about ways you can optimize your current workflows or maybe even decide workflows are something you would now like to employ in your form submission process. So without further ado, and for real this time, I swear, let's head into the system onto our workflow builder to chat about these new features. When building a workflow, we're given this blank slate. It's up to us to determine how the submission is processed and by whom. As I mentioned previously, workflows always start with the submission of a form. On this screen, you can see that we're going to take a look at our first example, the new hire process, starting with that employment application. First, we need to identify what we want to happen. In this case, when an applicant submits a form for our organization, we know it needs to go through an initial review process. These reviewers must leave notes on the submission that could, in turn, be passed to the interviewers if they get to that step. This sounds like a perfect use case for our shiny new task element. You might find yourself asking, what is the task element? Don't worry, I will be both showing and telling you today, but to keep things interesting, I'll just tell you first and then show you. A task element is best summed up as a way to track and assign an action that is happening outside of your Jotform system. In this case, the application reviewer will need to review the application against position requirements and possibly even check with colleagues or a licensure system to review information that the person included in their application. To really get your wheels turning with some other ideas for tasks, it could be used for checking a new patient's information against an existing record database, inspecting tools, vehicles, equipment after they're returned, calling and checking in with references to verify an applicant's information, processing a time off request, and updating external scheduling and payment softwares, and so many more. Now, I promised I would show you, and thank you for being patient with that. Now let's take a deeper look at everything the task element can do. We will be able to label our task as well as provide a description. This information will be visible to the assignee of the task, so we want to be specific with the necessary directions and messaging in these fields. In our example, I've gone ahead and labeled the task as review applicant information. Short, sweet, to the point. In the description box below, we have up to 300 characters to provide more information or directions to the assignee. We can tell them exactly what they need to do, who they can contact for help, just like I've done here for our example today. Now moving down, we have outcomes. Outcomes are going to be selectable options by the task assignee to determine the next step. You can add these custom to each task, and you could even color code them as you'd like. In our example, I've given the task assignee an option to choose whether or not the applicant meets the requirements. If needed, I could even add more as well. Now we move down to the assignee. I've mentioned this enigmatic assignee a few times already, so let's actually talk about who can be assigned a task. I have two options. If I know the email address of the reviewer, I can simply type it into this box as I have done. This means that every single submission will go to this reviewer every time to complete that initial review in the flow. However, I could also click over here on the form fields link to select a field from the form that an email address may have been entered. Using this method, I can create a dynamic assignee depending on the way the form is being filled out. With assignees in this system, which is not HIPAA or Jotform government enabled, I'm able to assign a task to anyone, regardless of their Jotform Enterprise user status. If they are not a licensed user of our Jotform Enterprise server, I can scroll down here and switch off to the requirement for the assignee to log in when they are assigned a task to complete. Now we get to the fun part. Well, all of this is fun, don't get me wrong, but this is really, really fun. Customizing the task. Now we have the ability to customize what the task assignee is seeing once they are alerted that they have been assigned said task. On this page at the top, we have the task title and description in plain sight for the assignee. Just below that, we have that response dropdown with my two created outcomes. And below that, we see an add field button. Clicking this will give us a list of fields that we can add that may be relevant for the reviewer to fill out. In my example, I mentioned that the reviewer will need to leave notes on an application. So adding a field like long text will allow them to leave notes before fully completing their task. I've actually already spun up an example for us today, so let's take a look at that now. I've gone ahead and added that long text field for notes. I've also added a date field set to the current date, a single choice field regarding licensing, and even a file upload field for the reviewer to attach relevant screenshots when needed. These elements will be able to be customized similarly to the way they are on the form builder. I can click on a field, click the gear icon to open properties, click options, or make any necessary adjustments like setting a field to be required. As I mentioned previously, this is the page the assignee will be brought to once they are notified of a task assignment. To see how they are notified, let's go back to our workflow builder and take a look at editing the assignee email notification. In the notification email, we have the ability to add any needed information from the original form submission, both in the subject line and the body of the email. We can also choose to show the view task and go to inbox button directly in the email for ease of access to complete the task. Clicking over to the advanced tab, we can make it even easier for assignees to review an applicant's information by sending any uploaded files directly as an attachment to this notification email. And we can also opt to attach a PDF of that submission information so they can reference it easily while completing their task. The next piece of building out the task is to set up a potential expiration date, as in if the task does not get completed in this amount of time or by a specific date, it is considered expired and the workflow is stopped. We also have the ability to send up to 3 rounds of reminder email to the assignee on a specified cadence. So they are not only initially notified, but are followed up with if the task is not immediately completed. These are both found in the Advanced tab of the Task Builder. The final piece of setting up the task is determining what happens after the task is completed. Similar to the approval elements of a workflow, a task's outcome needs to directly lead to a next action. In this case, if the assignee selects that the applicant meets the qualifications, the interview team is sent another task to complete the interview. If the reviewer determines that the applicant does not meet the requirements, the applicant is then notified via email of this decision. Now that we have that all set up, let's see what this would look like in action. What's that? I've been assigned a task. Let's take a look. We have an applicant wanting to work in Chicago, great city. That's where I'm from. They want to work in these departments. They've added their information and licensing references, and I have those attachments directly in this email. I think this person would be a great addition to our team. Let's go ahead and view this task using that handy dandy button at the top to complete the information that the company requires of me as the applicant reviewer. I'm going to say that this applicant meets the requirements, and I'm going to add any notes and information I need. From here, I can go ahead and submit. I know they'll ace their interview, and I can't wait for this applicant to join our team. Once that review has been completed, those with access to the forms inbox will be able to see the information that was added in that review step. In the inbox, I can see the application information here. And if I scroll to the bottom, I can keep tabs on where the applicant is at in the selection process. It looks like their application has already been reviewed. And if I click view task, I can see that information that the interviewer can see and learn about why I made the selection I made. Now that I have completed the task of explaining all of these tasks to you, let's move on to the next addition to our workflow builder, assigning a payment form. If you have not utilized workflows before, the screen in front of us might look a little intimidating, but that's okay. Let's break it down step by step. A parent submits a form for their child to enroll in an extracurricular activity. Based on the nature of that activity, the leader of that club, team, department will need to review the information before collecting the registration fee. Thanks to Jotform's payment integrations, collecting online payments is easier than ever. If you've heard me say that before, I promise you it's not deja vu. You can check out my previous lunch and learn all about payment gateways on our YouTube channel. With the inclusion of payment forms to a workflow, we can now assign a form where a payment is collected automatically in the workflow. With this, we can ensure that the appropriate registration fees are collected and that they are collected in a timely manner. Let's actually jump into this element to see what we can do. We will be responsible for selecting the form from our list of forms that have a payment integration enabled. From here, we can set the assignee of the form, in this case, the parent, would be responsible for sending the registration fee payment. Moving along, we can also set a pre-fill for this form. This will allow fields that are filled in from the first form to carry directly into the payment form so that information is already displayed, saves time for the parent, and keeps information consistent across the system. Next, we can customize the assignment email so the parent is aware exactly what this form is for and what they need to do. We can also send out reminder emails on a given time period to the assignee, in this case, the parent, so that we can be sure to collect the registration fee in a timely manner. If you're already familiar with the form assignment element in our approval flows, this is just taking it to the next level by narrowing it down to only forms that are collecting a payment. Now that we've chatted about tasks, chatted about payment forms, we only have one addition left: integrations. Let's head over to our final example for today, the new client onboarding, to see ways that we can incorporate third-party software as a part of our flow. Here we have a familiar site, a workflow. Bet you didn't expect that. But what's this at the bottom? A new element we haven't seen before. And wait, whoa, did anyone else notice that there's a brand new tab labeled integrations? The inclusion of integrations into the workflow is an especially exciting addition for our users, whether or not they have previously utilized workflows. If you are currently using integrations, you may have wondered if there's a way to send data to a third-party software conditionally. Well, up until recently, this was not really an option. I'm happy to report that now, via workflows, we as form builders and masters of those workflows can have a bit more control over what data is sent to a third-party service and when. Today, we'll be focusing on just one of those integrations, but I encourage you to check out this list in your own system and think about ways you might be able to utilize integrations in your workflows using your own preferred software. For our final example today, as I mentioned, we have a contact us form embedded on our website. This will be used for people looking to work with my company as a potential business partnership, and they'll let us know when they're free to meet. Once that submission data is reviewed, we want to automatically send a Zoom meeting added to both my calendar and the calendar of my potential customer. Using the new integration element for Zoom, I can have that information automatically create a meeting on a calendar for us to connect. Let's take a deeper look at this integration element. First, we have the ability to title our meeting and can even tie in fields filled on the form to this. For example, This will be my company name and the potential new client's name, sync. Next, it will ask us what the time and date of the meeting is and the duration, both of which are collected in the appointment element of my form that I have selected from this drop. Then I can add attendee information directly from the form, including the contactor's name and email address. I then, at the bottom here, can even pull in information from the form into the meeting description to ensure that we are both on the same page for the agenda to keep our time together efficient and productive for both parties involved. Again, as I mentioned, this is just one of many possible integrations you can incorporate into a workflow. You can have this data reviewed first before it's passed to the third-party software, or you can even use workflow conditional logic such as if else or conditional branches to only send data to an external software if certain conditions are met in the form submission. The sky is truly the limit. Now that we have reviewed each new addition to our workflows, our time together is nearing an end. Don't be sad, we can still reminisce on the good times we had together today. We chatted about task elements, remember that? That was so fun. We then moved on to payment forms, that was priceless. Then we took a look at our integration options, and well, I'll be honest, I don't really have a funny pun for this one, but the integration's neat. Our workflows have always been a point of pride here at Jotform, and now we're even more excited to provide your organization with new and exciting options that you can utilize to continue to automate your process. I encourage you to log into the system and think of ways you can optimize your current workflows or even add workflows to forms if you are not using them already. And if you have any questions along the way, we are here to help, which, speaking of questions, if you have any questions specific to the new workflow additions, please feel free to type them into the chat or Q&A if you have not already. Let's take a look and see what questions we received. Are there any plans to customize the task screen by adding widgets to the reviewer? That's a great suggestion. What you can do is open up a support ticket, and our team will take care of getting that to our developers and engineers for their consideration for potential future system updates. How can I transfer the uploaded file on the task for the next step for the reviewer to see? The way to see it would be from the inbox. So they would be able to view that submission and click view task at the bottom in the audit trail portion. So they would be able to open the file directly from there. Can I integrate with two spreadsheets in one integration? I'm assuming you mean Google Sheets. If that's incorrect, you can let me know. But I can double check on that for you offline. I think that it's only one, but I just want to double check to be sure. And then there's a question saying, do you have the option to have multiple approvals in the same workflow? Yes, absolutely. The workflows can be as robust and dynamic as you need, including, the people that need to be reviewing. There's only one assignee for tasks, but for approvals, you can have up to 10 assignees. So you can definitely flex that, as well as having some of the organization elements used to have like multiple approvals. You can use conditional logic as well to complete that. How can HIPAA compliance be used? Good question. In a Jotform enterprise server, HIPAA compliance will require that all approvers, because they need to see the entirety of the submission, which may or may not include PHI, but most likely will. But they will always need to be a licensed user to be an approver or to have a task assigned to them. Is there an integration to send data from the form workflow to a webhook? Um, Off the top of my head, I would need to double check. So I can double check our workflow builder and get back to you on that one. Great question. Does one have to be a user if they are assigned a task? In a non HIPAA enabled environment, no. As long as you slide off that require login option on the task editor, they do not need to be a licensed user. Does approver need login to access the inbox? Yes, the inbox is only visible to licensed users. Um, let's see. Great questions here. I'm seeing one asking, can you have more than one form in the same workflow? Yes, absolutely. You can add as many forms as you need. They will just need to be added as separate form elements. Um, can approvers be restricted from seeing form data not relevant to their approval? Yes. So approvers that are not licensed users are going to only be working out of their email. So you can choose what goes into the email. So you can choose to omit certain things. You can even choose to omit certain things from the PDF that might be sent. You could also have a different version of the PDF that could be attached to that email that might have a little bit more limited information in contrast to like that full submission view if there's things that they might not need to see as a part of the whole submission. um Will the task status and additional data collected show in the table of the form? Yes. So if you're in the table and you click to pop out a submission on the right hand sidebar, if you scroll to the bottom, just like in the inbox, you'll be able to click view task and see what was made in that selection there, as well as view the information. Um, Are changes to the workflow after initially kind of establishing a workflow easy to add? And do they affect previous forms that have been submitted? So we absolutely encourage you to constantly, be thinking of ways that you can expand your workflows. So you can absolutely edit an existing workflow and add some of these new elements. The one thing that I just want to recommend to be mindful of is that any workflows in progress will follow the flow that was originally established. Um, so if there's a submission that has not yet been completed in the workflow, and you would like to have a few new elements, you can restart the workflow if it's not completed. Um, and you could redo a submission as well if maybe there was another step that we're adding. Can you hide elements in the inbox so only like certain licensed users can see them? You can hide elements from the inbox. However, those would be hidden for everyone accessing the inbox. So if someone does have access to the inbox, they would be able to see the fields that are there. Again, you can choose to uncheck to make fields not visible anymore, but they would then not be visible to all of the users in with access to that inbox. These are some great questions. The last one I'm going to touch on today is what if I don't see an integration I use on the integrations list? So we are always looking to expand. So if you don't see an integration on this list of a software you might be using, I definitely recommend contacting our support team. You can submit a ticket right from inside your enterprise server. The support team will then pass the information to our developer and engineering team, and they'll take that into consideration for future workflow updates. And if that does get added to the workflow, you would be notified in that ticket. Um, those are all of the questions for today. If there are any other questions that I've mentioned, answering offline, I will be reaching out accordingly. So just to kind of move on in this, I just want to thank everyone for being with me here again today for this lunch and learn all about our newest workflow additions. If you have any questions that maybe didn't get answered today, please, please, please definitely reach out to our enterprise sales team, or if you're already an enterprise user, our customer support team. Again, you can submit tickets directly from inside the server through the support tab. You can also find more lunch and learns, webinars, walkthroughs, and quick video guides on our YouTube channel and website. We will have some great lunch and learn sessions coming up that will build upon each other. So please ensure that you're registered for these sessions at jotform.com/enterprise/lunch and learn sessions. Thank you again. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.